Dr. J here for our Study and Chill CISSP session with the command line, um, made possible by Pocket Prep, friends at Pocket Prep, um, working with us here at Taloa Cyber so that way we could help you get certified. It's been a while since I've been here to study with you all. As you may have known, especially if you checked my LinkedIn as of late, as you can see that I finally conquered Cyber Thanos, as I like to call it. Finally passed the CISSP. Um, I have to tell you, so I'll just share real quickly before we get started. The so my journey, I mean, it's been a long one. Not gonna not gonna lie about that. I started out, a couple of years ago, and a couple attempts, um, three attempts in total, and the third one I finally got through. But I'll say, as I compare this time taking the exam compared to the previous two. And I so in the previous two I took it last year and then the year before. So pretty much a year I took it the past couple of years. Um yeah, so one thing I just quickly share about my experience with taking the CISSP exam. And one of the things I learned from the previous times when I took it was looking back when I took it previously, I was very frantic. I was very, especially when it comes to like exam day, I was not, um, uh, I was not relaxed. I'll say, I felt very nervous. Um, I mean, I recall. I mean, I was taking my textbook and notes with me to the test site. Um, of course, I can't take it in with me inside where I'm taking the exam, of course. But as I'm waiting and everything, I think I remember even getting there. I think one of the times I got there really early because I wanted to make sure I wasn't I wasn't gonna get there late. But yeah, I mean, just real nervous, man. Just doing like some last minute cramming, just pretty much all the don'ts that you um when it comes to exam prep that you shouldn't do when you're trying to take an exam. So yeah, so just looking back, at least from the preparation standpoint, this time I just stayed very relaxed, very calm. I didn't overwork my brain. I didn't cram. Actually, leading up to the exam, I did very minimal. I did like very light review. Um, I think probably one of the things I probably spent some time on. I used Claude. Um, just to for, just to generate like some couple practice questions in terms for when it comes to the different formulas for like so ALE or SLE, like single loss expectancy and exposure factor, things like that, just to plug in the numbers where they're supposed to be. Um, because I guess I was anticipating a lot of questions when it comes to that, but I just knew for me like that was kind of a weak point. For the most part, I was able to get it, but I felt like I needed to shore that up, so I just did some extra practice questions when it came to that. Not a lot. I think I did like 5 or 6, and again, just doing a really light review of the terms and really just took it easy. I was watching. I was watching X-Men '97, a couple episodes of that. Just the night before the exam. Like I said, just really relax, man. Just not to overwork my brain and just really just trusting my prep uh, because I worked really hard up to this point, and yeah, just really had to. You're really at the point where you either know it or you don't. Um, no amount of cramming is going to help, especially the day of. Um, and another thing that I've noticed about myself was, especially as we're doing these sessions here, doing live with you all, and also when we doing the sessions, I guess internally within the Discord, within the command line, as a looking at questions, I was able to have a better command of the questions. And what I mean by that is, I was able to look at a question, examine it, and then examine the choices. And for the most part, I'm able to look at them and say, "Hey, all right, this choice doesn't make sense. Let me explain why it doesn't make sense, at least from my perspective." And and to kind of go through it and then be able to at least get myself to a 50-50 point and make the best choice I can. Now, does that mean I'm always going to be right? No, but again, I do feel very confident. My confidence level is very high when it came to that compared to the previous two times I was not able to do that. Um, I don't think I had the command that I currently do now, and that just comes from just time working, especially communicating with those who are that I'm studying with. Yeah, a big shout out to the members of the command line because yes, as we've gone through questions, we're able to share ideas, and you just hear those different perspectives, and that's really the heart of these study groups, and that's why I really got it started because it's going back quite a few years ago when I started, and those of you that may remember before Talawa Cyber, it was named the DRJJBMJ Study Hall, and yeah, the very first cert was the PMP, and yeah, and one of the things, as I said, like I say the real heart of the study hall was that when we have everyone together studying together, you're hearing those different perspectives, and you're able to, um, for one, you're creating those extra neural pathways because now you have another way of getting to the correct answer, and you're having that discourse, that back and forth with everyone, and it's just helpful, and those are things you actually you rely on, you come back to when you are taking the exam because you remember those conversations because they stick to you, and and they're very helpful. So yeah, leading to this, like I said, is really just trusting my prep, and I just felt very confident. Now I will say that no, there wasn't points at the exam that I didn't feel confident. So when I got to question 100, I felt I could have ended the test there. So when I submitted question 100 and it kept going, I was like, oh no. So that's when maybe um, that was the first time maybe I felt a little, I had, that confidence drop a bit. So I felt it then because I was like, oh man, I'm still going. So, keep going. Then I get 120. I think it's going to end maybe there. Nope. I keep going. It's like, all right. And the whole time is really, I got to make sure, you got to finish strong because you have no idea how you're doing, honestly. So, um, so the main thing is just try to stay focused. One thing that I've shared is maintaining that 0-0 mindset, staying desperate and, yeah, it's not what I want, but I just gotta keep going. I gotta keep pushing right to the end, and yeah, get right to 150. And test ends. I do the post exam survey. Um, and yeah, be honest, like I I had no idea. I don't know how I did. um, so the proctor comes in and closes, logs me off and walks me to the printer. She gets the test results, hands it over to me. She folds it in half and hands it over to me. And she just has like a stone face, like no emotion whatsoever. And so it's hard for me to read. I have no idea how. I was like, well, from that, I thought maybe I failed. I was like, oh damn, I failed again. So so with that, I didn't want to open it in front of her. I got my things from the locker and proceeded out to the hallway and opened. I want to see what the results was, and I first word on the letter it says congratulations, and I was like, "Yo," I could not believe it. Um, I had to keep reading the letter just to make sure it was real, and yeah, man, I was so happy because again, I just think back just to um, from like I said, from when I started, and you know, times I felt discouraged, but I knew, especially I invested so much time already. There was no way I was gonna just give up, even though I'm not getting the results I want. But I'm gonna keep pushing till I get the results I want, and I finally got it. So, those of you that maybe, of course, going through it right now, preparing for the exam, just know that yeah, it may be difficult. It's it's a very hard exam. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It is a hard exam, but also at the same time, it's not impossible. You can pass the exam with proper preparation, consistency, and also if you have a great circle around you. And again, if you're looking for a circle, you can join mine with the command line. And join us on our Discord. Um, because I think though having that is very important. Because there will be times you feel tested, you feel like you can't do it, you may question yourself. I think that's just natural. So, um, but at the same time, just know that having people in your corner to keep pushing you on, to know that you can do it, is important. So again, if you are out there, you're working on this exam, or maybe some other exams that you're currently preparing for, join us on the command line. Again, you can reach out to me. You can go to talawacyber.org and hit the invite link and you get squared away. Or you can just find me on LinkedIn and I'll make sure I get you in the community. All right. So, well, enough talk for me. But yeah, I just wanted to share that a bit. 'Cause it has been a while since I've been online with you all. So, but yeah, we'll go ahead and get started now. Let me share my screen. And yeah, and we're gonna do the same as always. 30 questions. I know we started a little later tonight. Yeah, a little longer day at work, but I felt it was important that we still, excuse me, I felt it was important that we still did this tonight, and I didn't want to cancel. I just pushed out the time a little bit, so it's all good. You can always catch this on YouTube on a replay or even on LinkedIn, so it's no worries. All right, let's get started. So, question one: the Chief Information Security Officer, or CISO, is trying to convince the Chief Executive Officer, or CEO, that a new policy should be created to address an ongoing issue with asset labeling and lack of uniformity currently in the workplace. Which statement best address the concerns of the CISO? All right, so the main so they're looking at so the CEO, well, excuse me, the CISO is trying to get some buy-in from the CEO that regarding asset labeling. So currently they don't have a policy in place, and they need to get one because things are getting out of hand. Maybe you have assets that are missing. Class. Whether an item is or whether an ice asset is classified or unclassified, because that is going to dictate how you protect it. Uh, yeah, and also you may have security. Um, breaches because of it if you don't have a proper labeling system in place. So let's look at the choices here and let's pick the best one. All right. So Alpha says labeling allows information to be declassified at a faster rate. No. Eliminate Alpha. Bravo says labeling assets would allow all employees to know the importance of the information or items and handle them appropriately. That sounds very good. Because as I mentioned, um, when you have a proper labeling system in place, you know how to protect it. Certain items, if it, I mean, something's unclassified, you may not need to worry about it as much as something that was classified, or like if it was top secret or secret, I should say, get more specific. So, yeah, that is important. So, yeah, labeling will let employees know how to best protect it. So let's hold on to Bravo. Labeling assets, the company would eliminate liability associated with them during a breach. Now that is good, because yes, when you talk about due diligence and due care, yeah, the company did take steps to make sure that they labeled their assets, um, but I don't think it's the best one here so far. I don't think that's stronger than Bravo. So So I'm eliminate Charlie. Let's go to the last one here. So labeling assets would allow the organization to precisely determine single loss expectancy after material. Um, again, it's not bad, but it's more of a weaker choice. Yeah, I'm still going with Bravo overall. Um, Bravo is the one that's going to let you know how to best protect the assets for organization. Yeah, yeah. Labeling assets allows for the classification and an organized way to determine the values of items and data within a company. So again, yeah, um, you can't enforce any policies or anything like that, again, knowing how to best protect an asset if it's not classified, and also um, you're protecting the company because then you may be letting something that's at the level of secret or top secret out the door simply because it wasn't labeled properly. So it is very important practice they want to maintain within an organization. All right, the Sarbanes Oxley Act primarily applies to what type of organization? Uh, applies to what type of organization? I don't believe it's I don't believe it's alpha. For some reason, I want to say it's nonprofit. I could be thinking of something else. I think it's nonprofit. I think between Bravo and Charlie, honestly. Uh, mm, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna go with Charlie. Let's see. Wow, it was publicly. Okay. So the Sarbanes Act primarily applies to publicly held organizations and is enforced by the Security and Exchange Commission. SOX holds executives accountable if they are found to submit fraudulent accounting findings to the SEC. SOX is based on the Committee of Sponsoring Organizations or COSO framework. A publicly held company and is traded on the stock exchange. All right. So portions of stocks do apply to privately held and nonprofit companies since the question says primarily. That results in publicly held as the answer to this question. So, yeah, it doesn't apply to government. Yeah. So, for sure, I didn't even consider Delta, but I know with the explanation, it does cover a bit with Bravo and Charlie, but the the overall stronger answer here was Alpha. All right, while testing new software at Maple Leaf Industries, a software engineer is conducting synthetic transactions before conducting synthetic transactions before allowing its usage in the workplace. What best describes the purpose of these synthetic transactions? All right. To ensure the software completes the expected tasks. Write the new software additional packages. Yeah, if you're creating transactions, because you conducting these tests, yeah, you try and eliminate, you try and eliminate errors. You try and at least um, reduce as many issues as possible while testing before going to production. So I wouldn't say alpha. I'm not even sure what they mean by packages, but so let's go to yeah. It's not. I don't think it's gonna improve. that's not the primary purpose for is to increase workplace productivity. I'd say Charlie. Yep. Yeah, synthetic transactions ensure that whatever text is expected comes out when requested. This is excellent practice for testing code and validating input, especially against potential attacks. It goes beyond simply ensuring that expected tasks are completed and increasing productivity and does not provide software with additional packages. The main premise behind synthetic transactions is to put code in and determine what the output is. So any other benefit is additional, but it should not be the focus of this practice. All right. An essential asset that handles the most sensitive data or requires 100% uptime would be best described as what tier of classification? Essential asset that handles the most sensitive data or requires 100% uptime. I'm trying to recall what these. So it's tier one to two to tier zero, one, two, three. Mm. I honestly have not messed with this one all that much. Um, I don't quite recall. I'm gonna go with three. Okay. What is this? What is this part of? So tier zero is reserved for essential assets. These are assets that handle sensitive data and always require to be available. Example would be a router or a file server that an organization relies on. Tier one asset is important, but not equally for every department. So some departments it may be more important than others. File shares or local network devices used by a group of employees would be an example of this. Workstations and phones would meet the criteria for a tier two classification. Tier two classifications generally describe non critical assets that could impact an individual, and there's no tier three. All right. So tier zero is the most critical. Well, for the to handle the most sensitive data. Actually, I'm gonna go deeper with this. Let me see what the AI says. So zeros always required to be available. Criterion ties directly into the BIA concepts like okay, like maximum tolerable downtime or recovery time objective. A tier zero asset typically has an MTD or RTO approaching zero since any outage disrupts the entire organization rather than a single department. This is also why tiering matters for disaster recovery planning when restoring systems after an incident. Tier zero assets like um, core routers, authentication servers, or enterprise file servers are restored first because everything else, tier one and tier two assets, often depends on them functioning. So the tier isn't just about sensitivity of data, it's also about dependency. How many other systems or departments would fail if this asset went down? Okay. All right. We'll close this. All right. Brandon is a disgruntled employee who decides he will build a backdoor into an in-house developed piece of a software. A few months later, Brandon's employment is terminated and he decides to attack the organization using the backdoor he built. Brandon's former employer hires a forensic team to investigate the origin of the attack. They identify the in-house developed application, but there's no record of how the backdoor was introduced. Of the following, what technique or control would have most likely allowed Brandon's former employer to identify Brandon as the person who introduced the backdoor? All right. So Brandon, he's disgruntled because he got fired. He got let go by the company, and he's like he's going to get some retribution against them using that back door. So the employer, they get a forensic team to investigate. They identify the in-house developed application. There's no record of how the backdoor was introduced. What technique or control would have most likely allowed Brandon's former employer to identify Brandon as the person? Now, it wouldn't. I don't believe it would be versioning because they don't really talk about different iterations of the same software. Um, that's why I would lean towards that, but it does. This doesn't describe that. Um, I'm leaning towards Charlie configuration management because split knowledge controls. I don't see where this backdoor uh, requires multiple parties to run this. External connection monitoring. I would eliminate Delta because they said it's in house, so I don't see how Delta would apply. Let's go with Charlie. Oh man. All right, so code versioning forces developers to document each revision or change in the code base. So all changes are tracked and saved. The organization should use code versioning to review changes made to code or rollback changes if needed. Common examples of code version control software are Git and SVN. Configuration management is used in a variety of manners. It could be used to track changes that are made to a piece of software. Um, or configure items in the IT environment. If it is used to track changes, it would not help here. The changes it tracks are ones that are requested. Brandon would not have requested, right? Um, yeah, so that makes sense there. All right, all right. Let's try to pick this up. I don't like how we're starting right now. All right, which of the following security solutions uses machine learning to evaluate log and event data it has collected and combined from multiple devices in the environment to detect advanced persistent threats? All right, it's using machine learning. Yeah, yeah, I'm looking at Seam. Yeah, yeah, Seam uses machine learning to evaluate and log event data. It has collected and combined from multiple devices in the environment to detect advanced persistent threats. A threat actor has attacked a web server and disabled its ability to serve a company's customers. What category of crime would this be? All right. Yeah, the threat actor attacked the web server. I want to go with alpha. Um, 'Cause I feel like computer misuse would be like if you're going to restricted sites or you're using a computer to, uh, I don't know, like conduct gambling or something like that. I think that to me that would fall more for computer misuse. Um, yeah, so that PC was attacked. Or excuse me, that yeah, they said attacked a web server and disabled its ability to serve a company's customers. But all these choices say computer. They don't say the server. Well, the server is on the. I guess just looking for more consistency with the terminology, but um, what category of crime would this be? Computer is incidental in the commission of the crime. All right, so I don't believe it's assisted. The computer assisted the crime. Um, Computer is the target of the crime. Yeah, I'm gonna go with alpha. Oh man. So why is it? So if the computer is incidental, then the third actor used a computer, but it was something that could have been done without a computer. So, for example, documented sales of their illicit drug trading in a Word document or spreadsheet when it could have just easily been done on paper. So, the reason to say it's the target said, yeah, yeah, the computer could be the target of the crime, computer could be the assistant in the commission of the crime, and finally, the computer could be incidental in the commission of a crime. So, when a computer is the target of a crime, the attack would be something like what is given an example of the question as the server is what was attacked. Yeah. Um, I guess I read alpha as the computer when it says incidental that it was part of the um, I guess blowback, if you will, in where the third actor was committing the crime. It was part of the I like a better term, like innocent bystander. um, so it, it was part of it. Yes, it was affected because and now as it was attacked, then it as a domino effect of that, customers who on that same network that rely on that web server now can't get any access. So okay. All right. Jennifer receives a document with the word confidential stamped on it. Of the following, what best describes the process of stamping the document? I'd say it's gonna be pro- that describes the process of stamping the document. Yeah, marketing and labeling. All right. In non-governmental organizations, which type of information would be least likely to be classified as sensitive? Well, PHI is Delta, so yeah, you want that to be classified. Financial information for sure. even board meeting minutes, because again, it could reveal intricate details about the company. So I had to be business contacts, and yeah, because they're usually publicly available or widely shared for business purposes. They don't contain personal or confidential data that could harm the organization if individuals were disclosed. So the following: what is the best benefit of having a passphrase over a password? A passphrase, yeah, they're definitely longer. I don't know if they require more complexity, but they're definitely longer than a password. Combination of length and complexity makes passwords secure. When possible, use passphrases instead of individual words. Passphrases are more secure because of increased length and randomness, and are easier to remember than shorter but more random passwords. When passphrases are random and long enough, they are very unlikely to exist in a rainbow table. All right, which of the following security principles can protect against both fraud and falling for a phishing attack? I think I saw something like this before, and I had no idea what this was. I'm gonna go with fail security. Well, separation duties. Yeah, I wasn't. So, separation duties ensures no one has full control over a critical process. This protects against fraud and someone falling for a phishing attack. Okay. Uh, okay. All right. Which of the following is a structured approach to managing resiliency when sourcing components and materials? Oh, yeah, supply chain risk management. Yep. While creating its disaster recovery plan, Maple Leaf Industries wants to determine the scope of potential security audits on its hot site and regularly test its recovery capabilities. What would this most likely involve? Um, all right. So they want to determine the scope of potential security audits and really test its recovery capabilities. What would this most likely involve? Assets that are most critical to business functions. I think that's the answer there. Charlie seems to be very limiting. Assets that are most frequently used. No, I really think Delta because I guess if any of those assets that are important to for the business running properly, yeah, it could take it down. It could have a very adverse effect. So let's see. Okay, I I eliminate that one. So let's see why it's Charlie. So typically, the assets required to be accounted for are based on the specific audit. In other words, the devices and systems that interact with the central focus of the audit. All right. While assets most critical to business functions are likely to be a key focus area, other assets should not necessarily be excluded. Okay. All right. A threat actor attempts to present themselves as Acme Inc.'s CEO when calling an employee and requesting they perform a bank transfer. What social engineering principle are they attempting to exploit? Mm. All right. I'll eliminate consensus. I'll leave authority on the table because it is the CEO, or they're posing as the CEO. Trust maybe one because it's like I said, they know it's the CEO, but they're also looking at intimidation. Could be intimidation as well. Uh, I think authority would more be aligned with like if it was like police or something. All right, let's go with Delta. Oh, it was authority, and I knew I left that one on the table. I knew. Yeah, victims are more likely to pay if they think the attacker is someone with authority, executive or law enforcement. Wow. Not this first half is not going the way I want it. Let's see if we can finish strong for the second half. All right. MAB is responsible for writing and publishing information for users that details their expected behavior when using corporate systems. Um, which document would contain this information? That should be acceptable use. Yeah. Which form of management would best ensure secure baselines are maintained and deviations are authorized? This has to be configuration management. Secure baselines are maintained. Yeah. Because the other one you could look at was change management, but the reason why change management is not it says so change management is a process that document and control changes within an IT department and it manages configuration items. Okay. And the other two I didn't even consider, honestly. A honeypot is best described as which of the following? Not Delta. Charlie looks good. I'm gonna hold on to that. Bravo, no. Alpha. Well, Charlie, it says actively soliciting them to attack. I don't think they're doing that. I think Alpha would probably be the best choice because, yeah, if it's a weaker system, um, the attacker is going to choose the path of least resistance and they'll choose the weaker system. So, yeah, intentionally weakening security systems, that's what makes honeypots so, I guess, attractive to an attacker. Kat is a developer for an online gaming company. She finds a bug and tries to also update the production code, but the system does not allow her to do so. This is most likely an example of which of the following. This would be separation of duties because it's going to require someone else to perform the another action along the process. Which of the following best represents a social engineering attack? So, Bravo, that's like piggybacking. Um, Social engineering. Yeah, so you're playing on like human emotions, I guess. Yeah, so that'll be Delta. Yeah, you're tricking. You're pulling some Loki stuff, Loki level stuff. Mischief. All right, which of the following is not a valid phase of a penetration test? I think this is lessons. Yeah, you're not doing that in a penetration test. Yeah, it's gonna be planning. You're gonna do information gathering and discovery, enumeration, vulnerability scanning, exploitation, and reporting. Definitely reporting. Um, at the end. All right, which of the following is the correct order of the change management process? All right, let's. So I know for sure, document the change is going to be last. So I could eliminate Alpha and Bravo. So it's really down to Charlie and Delta. So let's look at what they got. So they're both gonna start with 4. So request a change. They both have 3 as the second. Review the change. All right. So Charlie has 5. So 5 is test a change. Delta has 1. Approve, reject the change. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna approve it that early. Um, so 5 is test a change. 1, approve, reject the change. 2, um, schedule and implement the change in the 6th document. I think it's wow. I got that jacked up. Yeah, so it's request, review, approve, approve or reject. Okay, then test. Yeah, yeah, because you wouldn't test it if something was denied. So that makes sense. Then 2 is schedule, and 6 document. Which is data at rest? Okay. I felt like the flash drive was like still in. Hmm, okay. All right. Acme Tech Services Corp. Grants Big Box LLC access to software in a cloud that is dedicated for use only by Big Box LLC. The software is a word processing application similar to Google Docs, and Acme Tech Services is responsible for all the server maintenance, physical infrastructure, and patching. Big Box LLC is responsible for ensuring it uses the application securely. What type of cloud deployment model is in use in this case? I think this is going to be software as a service. No. It says what type of cloud deployment model? This is going to be private cloud. It says it's only going to be used by Big Box LLC. They're not asking about the software. They're asking about the deployment model. Yeah, private cloud is hosted for the benefit of a single organization and accessible only by only that organization. Which of the following is not a biometric or authentication factor? Oh, hand geometry for sure. Retina scan, signature dynamics. This is gotta be Bravo. Yeah. So RFID implant embedded under the skin is considered a type 2 factor since it's not a physical characteristic of your body or behavior. It's still something you have. Good point. All right. Francisco and his team are role playing a disaster recovery scenario to test their readiness to respond. A moderator knows the full scope of the disaster, and each team member provides suggestions for responding to the scenario. What type of test or exercise is this? Okay, yeah, they're doing role playing. This has to be tabletop. Yep. All right. Which of the following might an organization use passwords to implement? Which of the following might an organization use passwords? Uh, I don't know if I like the way this was asked. Hmm. I want to say identification. Identification, authorization, unauthenticated. I think it's, oh boy. Use passwords. I'm not sure about this one. Hmm. Passwords authenticate, yes. Yeah, authentication is going to verify the identity of the user, device, or application, such as a password. Oh man, it's a rough night tonight. First night back in a while. It's it's a rough one so far, guys. But it's all right. That's why you keep doing it. You keep going. You keep practicing. You keep working. All right. What best defines a Smurf attack? Um, Alpha describes a teardrop attack. Yeah. Yep. Fragment IP packets with oversized payloads. That's a teardrop, which is part of a denial of service. Spoofing the source IP address with the victim's address. Flooding the broadcast address with ICMP echo requests. Which of the following best describes what a chain of custody does? That should be Delta. Yeah, it is. Yeah, paper trail of who all handled the information. I mean, like an asset or evidence, um, and that helps in in court proceedings to ensure that um, uh, that evidence wasn't tampered with. Um, which of the following types of security testing is most likely to involve exploiting vulnerabilities within an organization's environment? Exploiting vulnerabilities in an organization's environment. Uh, vulnerability assessment involve exploiting. I want to say Delta. It's not. I don't believe it's Charlie. Oh, it is. So, oh man. Okay. Mm. Man, tonight is terrible. All right, last one. Which of the following protocols uses port 22? Um, Telnet is 23. File transfer protocol, that's 21. I think FTP uses 21 and 22. Domain name system. I think that's 20. Is Secure Shell 22? Talos 23. Oh boy. Yeah, it was it. File transfer. I was 20 and 21. DNS use 53. Secure Shell. It's 22. Rough one tonight. Rough, rough, rough. Yeah, not what you want. But um, that's all wrong. Let me just look at the ones we got wrong tonight. Yeah, Sarbanes-Oxley Act. That's for publicly held companies. Okay. Tier zero. Yeah, the tiers. Honestly, I don't think I've really done much when it comes to the tiers. So, but gotta shore that up. Versioning. Quick answer here. Oh, and it's about the role of the computer in the crime. Yeah, so the computer is the target of the crime because then, um, as it being a target, it had a domino effect where those customers were affected. Um, I don't think I like the way the question was asked though, but this was separation of duties. assets based on a specific test or audit. Okay. Authority for that social engineering principle. This is someone posing as CEO. They're using the authority on that person. And the change management process. Yeah, it's going to be you request a change, review it, approve or reject the change, test it, schedule, and then document. Data rest, yeah, into a flash drive. I was thinking, I guess memory, then it's kind of still data in use, but yeah, yeah, it's not being used, so it'd be data at rest. Yeah, passwords. Yeah, to authenticate someone, yeah, you use passwords. Exploring vulnerabilities, penetration test. Okay. Oh, secure. Yeah. Port numbers. Port numbers are important. So, yeah. Uh, not my greatest performance tonight, but um, as I said, that 0-0 mindset. You know, I'll look at it, see what's wrong, then tomorrow start again, start fresh, and don't let today weigh me down. Start over for the next day, and just reattack. Just keep going. All right. Well, appreciate you all watching, especially if you're going back on the replay. Check us out on YouTube. And let me know how you're doing your respective studies. And again, if you're looking for a community to join, find the command line on Discord, and just reach out to me, and I can again ensure that you're squared away to join. Also, check out the website talawacyber.org, and you can find an invite link on there as well. All right, everyone. Well, have a good night, and see you back here again next week. All right.